so bright up here. Oh my God, I can't actually see. Thank you so much for being here. I was just saying it's so nice to show it on a big screen, you know, and the
I
idea, this sort of
know.
cinematic nature of it, because it does have that appeal, I think, the show, in terms of the vast landscapes and the emotion and the drama that the show's always had.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing that has always been at the forefront of the show is that sort of beautiful production value and making it feel very cinematic. And, you know, they spend a long time and an effort putting it in. So it's nice. Yeah.
And here we are
And here we are.
at the end. I mean, it must feel strange, considering this has been something that's been part of your life for so long, that you've finished, but we haven't as an audience. You know, we're still getting the episodes week by week for a few weeks yet, thankfully. But how does it feel?
Yeah, it is. It's because obviously there was a first wave of saying goodbye to it when we finished filming. And, you know, and life is busy and you sort of, but, you know, Outlander never releases you, which is so lovely because there's always, you know, you're always either interacting with people who have watched it and that feels very special. And it also feels like a lot of people are still finding it, which is lovely. But then, yeah, when we started sort of gearing up for this press, it was just so lovely to have all of us together again. And that has been so special, but it's a different, this sort of saying goodbye in the way of it finally, I don't know, going out to everybody. And, you know, I see faces here that I know, and which is so lovely. And I guess like this is our goodbye with you guys, you know, so we get to all do it together. And that's very special.
Yeah. Was there a moment, you talk about that thing of it connecting, was there a moment when you realised how the show had connected in a way that was kind of, you know, on a world stage as opposed to just being certain parts of the world?
I mean, you know, there was a couple of moments that we always talk about that first ever fan event, you know, when nobody had seen anything and we went to a fan event in LA and there was like 2,000 people at it. And Sam and I had absolutely no idea what we were doing or what was going on. And we walked out on stage and I think we both nearly wet ourselves. You know, it was just like, oh, what's happening? But I guess, you know, I think it's when something first happens, you get carried away in this wave of it. And that can be very, you know, you sort of you don't really know what's going on and you're sort of carried by this whole thing. But I think when that sort of dies down a little bit and then you still see people show up, you know, I talk about like a couple of years ago when I went to the Oscars for the first time and what a lot of people kept coming up to me being like, oh, we saw all of your fans. Like they had a massive banner. And like, you know, it's like people that I looked up to and have looked up to forever. And you know, they come over and they're like, oh, the Catriots. And you're like, oh my God, like this is insane. I can't even believe that, that I get to be a part of something like this. So, yeah.
I think one of the many things that is wonderful about the show is how well female characters are written in the show and how those characters are given the opportunity to be real in kind of really, you know, real situations, and the show's never shied away from going there on different subjects. Was that kind of obvious for you, you know, from the start with not just Claire, but with so many of those female characters?
Well, I don't know if you've ever met Diana. So she laid down this incredible framework. And, you know, Diana is the most incredible sort of unapologetic, so authentically herself. And when you meet her, you know, she's never afraid to say what she thinks. And I think she gives that to everybody in a different way. And, you know, I think it's not only the female characters. I think all the characters in her world get to be brilliant, get to be terrible, get to be a lovely mixture of both. They get to be weak, they get to be strong. They get to be vulnerable, they get to be the heroes, you know, and it's sort of like, I think everyone gets their moment in all of these kind of different facets of humanity. And then it's sort of laid out in this world that's very real in one way and then very fantastical in another. And that allows for these just very big moments and very small moments and sort of everything in between. And I think, you know, it's quite incredible that she came up with this world and she came up with this premise and these characters, you know. You know, I look at over the years, like all of the people who've passed through and all of the brilliant characters that we've had on the show. And it's quite amazing, you know, that kind of legacy of all of these different people.
Are there particular moments with Claire that have been either memorable or important for you that she's gone through?
Yeah, oh God. I mean, there's so many. It's like every season there's so many.
Season 1, let's start.
I mean, season 1 will always be so special because that is the beginning, you know, and that is the sort of where I met her and where I found my footing as an actor. And, you know, this whole world just sort of grew from that place. You know, I think of some of the stuff that I got to do with Tobias in the beginning of season 3 was so special and you know, different. And that version of Claire as this kind of like working mother who was in a very compromised marriage, you know, that stuff was really layered and complicated and lovely. And then, you know, there's been so much. I mean, Sam and I have just had the opportunity to do everything, you know. Yeah. But I also, you know, some of the stuff at the end of season 5, just because it was very, as an actor, you have to sort of bring yourself to places. I mean, Faith, that episode, God, that was so special. I don't know, my brain's just going pyong pyong.
No, but it's so interesting hearing you, because it's, although you've been playing this character for 8 seasons, it's not just a character because of the writing and the situation that and the different, you know, eras that she finds herself in. So it gives you the opportunity to almost play multiple characters in a way.
Well, it's funny because Claire has lived so many lives. I guess the thing that for me was always finding her through line through all of it. You know, like as a person, her core doesn't shift. You know, I would say probably the most challenging and interesting thing was season 6, was where I felt like she really, you know, it sort of came to me with like, well, you know, she's sort of hitting the ether. You're like, what? Yeah. But it's amazing because she had been somebody who was able to compartmentalize and keep everything together through everything, you know. And this was the season where she sort of fell apart. And that was that was a really interesting and beautiful kind of journey to go on with her, and then have her sort of put herself back together in this new way. And who do you become after something like that? So yeah, I mean, I literally feel like myself and Claire have been through the wars, literally and figuratively.
Well, it's also that idea of kind of of the baggage that she carries with her, both emotionally but also kind of physically and, you know, materialistically almost as well. And I love those moments where, you know, there are things that are from the future that are in those moments, you know, whether it be you singing Ave Maria, you know, those are kind of like things that have come with her from those different, and that's a really brilliant, clever thing that I love about the show as well.
Yeah,
it's how they inform decisions or conversations or situations. It's really clever.
Done really. I love those. I love when we get the chance to bring those moments in, because you don't forget that stuff. It's there within you. I mean, we had it in season 4. There was the Thompson sisters. Somebody else can tell me, the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy or whatever.
Company B, Company B,
Andrew sisters, thank
sisters,
you.
yeah.
Thompson twins, Andrew
Thompson twins,
sisters.
yeah.
Well, it's
That's
all
a
getting
good
mixed up.
mashup.
It's like, somebody should do that. Edith,
Doctor,
I'm leaving
Boogie
it to
Woogie
you.
Bugle,
And then we had, you know, obviously do like beside the seaside, that as well, which has been such a sort of important song that has been woven through. But yeah, I think it's those moments. And, you know, sometimes especially Sophie and I, we would try and, you know, fight for moments where Claire and Brianna can bring those moments back in.
Yeah.
Because you don't want them to just be like, okay, now we're in this and we've totally forgotten about our life and our history. So it's really special when we do get to bring those.
I love that
in.
relationship, and I love how there's moments of kind of real lightness with you and Sophie, and there's that, I think it's either episode 2 or 3 in this season where you're talking about your third husband.
The fact that I slept with George on.
It's such a love. It's such a brilliant moment.
It's a very funny scene.
Yeah, it's really great.
And she's so great. And we do, because I think it's such a thing for the fans to have Jamie and Brianna together. So quite often, Brianna and Claire sort of don't get those moments. And when we do, like Sophie and I just love it so much. And, and she's so funny in that. She's just like, Mama, what the hell? It's great. And I love when the women get together. And, there's certain times, in episode 2, we had a lovely one where they're all picking blueberries. And it was just really lovely to see sort of the women just hanging out and being sisterly and having that kind of sisterhood thing. It was lovely.
Episode 2, which you directed.
Which I did.
Yeah, come on. Exactly. It took long enough. Yeah. How did that conversation start? Is it something you'd been kind of, I don't know, dropping hints at?
Yeah. I think I probably first mentioned it in season 3, but I don't know how. It was probably like, oh yeah, I'd really like to do that. I don't know how forceful I was being about it, but it had been a dream of mine. God, before I even went to drama school, I was, in our little tiny youth theatre directing like little tiny play things. And, it was something I always wanted, but I'd taken such a detour from acting. And sort of by the time I came back, I was like 30 and, you're just trying to get a job and sort of you feel like you have to prove yourself so much as an actor, considering I also had come from fashion and you feel like you're coming with this sort of, I don't know, chip on your shoulder about it, whether it's your own or people impose it upon you. And when I got the show, I was just so grateful to be doing that. And then you watch as, we have a new director every block. So I'd seen so many directors come through and there's some that you're so inspired by. And then there's some that you're like, well, if they're doing it,
do a better job than they can.
If they're doing this as a job, I think I could probably. And so, and it's such a learning curve. Like it's just a learning experience being on set for that many hours. And so I'd sort of asked again, and then I'd asked about, and I was given some second unit stuff to do. And then I may have mentioned it in an article, just being like,
put out there.
I'm just putting it out there. And so I got a phone call after that article came out and they were like, do you want it? And I was like, yes, I do. Thank you. So
did you get to choose?
No, it would have always been at the beginning because of the requirements
Schedules.
For the prep.
Yeah.
And once you start filming, I'm just in all the time. And they weren't going to give me the premiere. So I was always going to be in episode 2. But I loved every moment of it. And I was so supported. The crew, oh my God, they had my back so much. Like they all rallied behind me and they were so excited for me. And Jan Matthias, who directed the first episode, he is this just angel of a man. He teaches film in Belgium. He's the most lovely, gorgeous human being, and he just helped in any way that he could, and he was always open for questions. And Stain, our DP, was also like the two of them just... I couldn't have asked for a better experience. And then Barbara Stepansky, sorry, thank you, my brain. She wrote that episode, and then she was also our supervising producer on it. So it was great. So her and I had a really great relationship, and I'd known her for obviously a couple of seasons, and we got to really drill in on the episode. And, I was able to take these different aspects of experience and, just fine tune things as we went. And it was honestly, I was buzzing. It was like the very first month of being on the show, because your brain is just learning all of these new things and you're so excited. And then, and the cast as well, like they were just amazing, like so supportive and lovely.
What was more nerve-wracking, day one as an actor or day one as the director?
Oh God, probably on a par. Like there probably was, but in a very different way.
Yeah.
I mean, day one as an actor, I didn't really know anybody, so I was just like, But day, one as a director, but that's a different, because they all know you. So you're like, and my very first day was like a 7-page scene between Sam and Richard.
Wow.
Neither of whom are going to give you an easy go of things. They like to rile you up and stuff, but they were brilliant. And it was quite full on.
Was it everything you wanted it to be?
It was. I mean, and I think the things you realize, like, it's the curveballs that are actually, more exciting almost. When things go to plan, you're like, oh yeah, that was a great day. But it's like when things don't and you figure out a solution and then you figure out a way of making it work, that's when you're like, oh my God, like, I did it, so yeah, it was amazing.
And did you get to see that through into the edit as well in terms of crafting the actual episode?
Well, the way it works in TV is a TV director gets, at least in the sort of American system, you get a 5-day edit and you get to hand in your director's edit. And what they do is they're like, oh, that's very nice. Thank you very much. Blah, 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 blah. This is what we're going to do. So yeah, there's and I knew that going in. And I worked with the two great, actually both Michelle, one was Mike. It was very confusing with our editors. There's Mikey, Mike and Michelle. I was like,
wow.
But they were all great. But yeah, there's certain things that you're like, oh, that didn't make it in or that didn't make it in. But then, there's also, you realize that's what happens to every director.
Yeah, and you still got to capture what you wanted to capture in the way you wanted to capture.
Exactly. And there's an energy, I think, that I really wanted to sort of have with all of the scenes, and and I felt like that was there, and I felt that like the sort of essence of all of the scenes that I did was really, that felt that it shone through.
Was there something in particular you're really excited or determined to either kind of creatively explore in your episode, or performance, or just anything specific about the episode that was really important for you?
I think the things that I really respond to as an actor and as a viewer are, naturalism, and when things feel very grounded and honest. And also just, I love like the flow of the energy through things. And I think I worked with that a lot in the scenes. And, the scene with the women picking blueberries was one. We had this, and it's not super obvious necessarily, but it was almost like a very slow dance that they were all doing around each other. And I think like things like that, there's a lot of movement, and there's a lot of, I guess, allowing scenes to sort of weave their way together, if that makes sense. Yeah. And Stain was amazing. It's like things like, even there was one shot, I love all like cinema from the 70s, and those kind of very, long shots where you're like, find a character and then you bring them through things. And we obviously didn't have that scope and space, but there was the thing like when William shows up at the camp, it's like finding his horse down there and then bringing him up through. And there was like just little things like that. It was so fun to kind of, sit with Stain and be like, okay, this is the stuff that, I love, and this is the feeling I want to get. Like, and I know we only have this, but like, how do we sort of create that? Or how do we find that same energy?
Real bear, by the way, as well. Was it a real bear?
Not a real bear. That bloody bear. 3 days before we shot that bear, it was a cougar, and it was supposed to be a real cougar. So for some reason, I guess in the book it's a bear, but because we were never going to have a bear in the UK, in Scotland, they were like, but we have a cougar. There's a cougar in England. We can get the cougar up and it'll be a cougar attack. Now, cougars stalk and they sort of attack in a very different way. So I'd like planned this shot that was going to come around and it's like stalking. And then they wouldn't issue a license at the last minute for this cougar to travel. This is like, and this is what I'm talking about, curveballs.
Oh, wow. Cougar
So
immigration.
that was on, yeah. So that was happening on Wednesday. I was shooting Sam and Richard on Tuesday. Monday, I was acting for Jan all day. And Friday was when we found out about the cougar. And I was like, okay. And they were like, so it's going to be a bear now. So, and we had like storyboarded the whole thing. We had planned it. And I was like, okay. I was like, I know it's new. And like Googling, you know, how do bears attack? And then they don't, apparently, like very rarely. Especially like unless they're being attacked. So then it was like, well, you have to really bring a person far away because if there was a crowd, they wouldn't attack. And I was going to have the people about the bears being like, that's not how bears go. And so anyway, but we figured it out and we had an amazing, the special effects unit and team. And
that's amazing.
You know, they were incredible and, you know, and it was fun, like trying to figure out like how we get the camera. And Joanne, who was incredible, poor Joanne, Amy, R.I.P. But... Yeah. You know, figuring out how to get that sort of drive, from her point of view and all of those things. Yeah. It was just, it was exciting and stressful.
The research you did into that as well, it's extraordinary. Now, we know that nobody knows the ending, not even you guys know. But in terms of that last day of shooting, your last scene that you shot, that must have been weird.
Oh, I mean, it's still... my brain can't remember what we were saying because even as we were saying it, there was like 7 different versions of me watching the other versions, if that makes any sense. I felt like I was having a multiple out-of-body experience.
Oh, your Claires were there.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah. But it was Sam and I, and there's a scene and we're in bed and we're talking to each other and they're sort of taking stock. You know, it's not the last scene in the series, but it was our last official day. And, you know, you rehearse it and we were like, yep, that's what it is. This is what the scene's about. And then, you know, you do it you do it so many times because there's his coverage and your coverage and all the different sizes of the coverage. So you're saying it, you know, you're doing it for hours. Every time we would say it, a new meaning would spark from a line about our lives, about our experience, about the show, and it just got to the point where towards the end, like I've said this and stuff, but my face was spasming, just like different parts of my face was moving. And I was like, I didn't even know my face could do this. And I was so overcome with like emotion and sort of the realization of the enormity of this ending. And, you know, Sam and I, just this partnership that we've had since we went and got our hair destroyed in like South Kensington, you know, 12 years before. Yeah. It was just, it all sort of just hit me around the face.
I'm so glad it was you two though in your last.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it had to be.
Yeah.
It had to be.
How would you describe that partnership?
Oh, I mean, I love him to bits. I really do. I am so grateful. You know, we went for a walk in Hyde Park. I remember before we started filming, he was probably on his 5th or 6th red hair dye of the month. And it was starting to turn purple. I was on my 2nd perm of the week. I can't even begin to explain what that looked like. We went for this walk in Hyde Park. And, you know, we didn't even really know each other at all at this point. He'd been on prep for probably 2 months. I think I'd gotten there a week before. And we just sort of went for this walk and we were like, you know, don't know what this is going to be. And, you know, I've been around people in the music business for many years. You all know the bands that share things stay together.
Yeah.
The bands that kind of think one person's the thing and the other person isn't, they
Friendship.
always break up and it
Real
ruins
friendship.
it. And it's real friendship. But you have to, I think you have to decide that,
Yeah.
you know? And I think we made a commitment to each other on that walk to have each other's backs. And, you know, and we both took it very seriously. And I'm so fucking grateful because I adore him, and I am just so in awe of the man that he's become. And, you know, he's an incredible person. And, you know, I really value that friendship, and I really am so proud that we've managed to retain that over the years.
It's so, and I'm sure a lot of people in the room feel this, but there's a real physical feeling when, as a fan, when you see you two on screen sort of thing, it kind of makes you feel safe. It's kind of like this kind of, you know, this on-screen relationship that was meant to be, you know, and it's kind of like, it just feels so comfortable for us to watch because it feels so right watching you two on screen together. It's pretty amazing.
You know,
over 8 seasons for it still to feel like that.
Yeah, whatever the universe, whatever, you know, I really think we were meant to do this show together. And you know, everyone who came on, like Sophie and Richard and John Bell and Izzy and Caitlin, and, you know, everyone, like we're so lucky. Like, it is like Suzanne Smith, thank you very much, and all the rest of them who are involved in the casting. Like, there hasn't been a dud, you know. And it's so lovely. Like, it's lovely to be able to say that.
That needs to be on a poster. Outlander, no duds.
No duds.
What's also extraordinary when you think about it, and when you hear how intense the schedule was on this show, is the amount of stuff that you have done outside of that. It's unbelievable, Caitriona.
I don't feel like I have.
Oh my God, you absolutely have. And, you know, just really memorable, brilliant performances. Le Mans, I loved that film with James Mangold.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a really good one. If you haven't seen it, you really need to watch it.
It's funny, that has 2 names.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
It's like,
what's the other
who
name?
thought in the world of open digital that was like a good idea?
What was the other name?
So it's Ford versus Ferrari in the US, and then Le Mans 66.
Everywhere else.
I don't know why. Somebody at marketing should have.
Great casting. You, Christian Slater, young Noah Jupe as well. You know, it's kind of like, it was brilliant. He's a great director as well, isn't he?
Jim is amazing and was just such a joy to work with. Like, he's just like so skilled and competent and fun and doesn't, you know, is very, very, you know, I love when people are so prepared and know exactly what they want, but also are not precious.
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember one of my first days, and I was very intimidated. You know, I hadn't done much outside of Outlander at all at that point. And I remember myself and Christian had this scene, and we were doing something, and all I could hear is, Christian, that thing you're doing, don't. And it was Jim. And Christian was like, okay. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, it was just, you know, he's just so, I don't know, like just so chill and makes it just a very relaxed, like, try something. And if he doesn't like it, he's going to tell you. But if you try something that he loves, he's going to tell you that too. And it was so fun. And then watching like Christian and Matt Damon, you know, just, you know, have the most comedic fight ever. And everyone was like, there's Bourne and Batman, you know, rolling about a lawn. Was hilarious. And then Noah, like, I also, how well are all my children doing? Like, all my children have grown up to be very, very amazing.
And Belfast.
Oh, Jude, you know, Jude's killing it.
What a film.
Yeah.
What a film, what a character, and what a director, another great director and kind of leader. Such a personal story.
That was such a magical experience. I think, you know, not only just the time that it was, because it was literally between the first lockdown and the second lockdown. But Ken wrote it during the first lockdown. He wrote it in the March, and he sort of called his people, and by the time the first lockdown opened, he had it all together, and he had people getting ready to just build. And I think, you know, my poor husband, we were in a car on the way, you know, our first time out of our apartment in like 4 months or something. We were on our way to the Cotswolds for a little holiday with our sick cat. And I get a call, and it was coming up to our first wedding anniversary. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. Oh my God. I'm going to go do a job, and you're going to be on your own for our anniversary. I'm so sorry, babe. But yeah, so it was just this beautiful, and like Judi Dench and Kieran and Jamie Dornan, and, you know, it was magical. It was magical. Like and Ken, because it was so personal to him, I think he was, you know, when you see somebody, you know, living out creative necessity, that's so pure and joyful, it can only be a magical experience, and you're just there to sort of help facilitate it and be part of this beautiful thing. And it was, and then, you know, he got an Oscar and all that magic, and yeah, it was beautiful.
Now, whenever I hear that song, Everlasting Love, isn't it?
Oh,
I just think of you and Jamie now. It's like, it's kind of got that, it's almost like that scene's almost kind of become attached to that song now, that whenever you hear it, I see kind
and
of
Jamie's
YouTube.
so like amazing in that. You know, he's such another
light.
incredible co-star who I've been just so lucky to work with.
The good thing for us is that, you know, Outlander finishes, but we've got about 8 films to look forward to that you're going to be in, which is so exciting. I've written loads of them down as well, and I'm really particularly excited to Sense and Sensibility, obviously.
Yay.
That's going to be, we're getting that this year, aren't we?
Yeah, I think
man.
that's September. Or
Was that fun?
That was incredible. You know, I definitely said to my agent, I was like, I don't want to do period dramas anymore. Like, don't come to me with anything that's got a corset. And then he was like, so, but Georgia Oakley, again, like I feel like I've been so lucky with the people I get to work with. Her first film, Blue Jean. If you guys haven't seen it, you have to watch it. It's
a film.
So gorgeous. And you know, she's just somebody that you know that she has a very clear vision of what she wants to do. And I just like that, to me, is sort of the thing that will always make me say yes, is sort of being led by somebody who's an artist, you know, and she's a real artist. And, you know, you're like, why would you want to do this again? And I was really like, we had a Zoom, and I was like, you know, Ang Lee's film is so amazing. And like, but she had this really new, fresh take on it. And, you know, I think the great thing about these sort of, you know, classic texts is that every single generation comes to it with their own perspective. And so they meet it at a different place, and they have a different understanding of what that means to them. And so, yeah, and Daisy and Esme, Daisy Edgar-Jones and Esme Creed Miles and Bodhi Ray Bannock. I can only have children in this movie that have double barrel names. But they're just amazing. Like, it was incredible to watch them, and they all embody their characters in this like beautiful, beautiful way. And I'm so excited for everybody to see it. And we shot it on film, and it's I've seen a sizzle reel, and it's just sumptuous. And in a very, very different way to what Ang Lee did, but it's very sumptuous.
All on September. A Long Winter is the other one. I mean, Andrew Haigh knows how to break my heart.
Andrew Haigh is somebody I feel like
what a film.
All of his films, though. I feel like I've been trying to manifest working with him for a very long time.
And your co-star.
Yeah, Eben's amazing. I mean, it's all like that came, it was very quick. It was kind of a surprise. I sort of got sent, you know, I'd met Andrew before, and, you know, I'd sort of gushed to him about how much I loved all of his films. And so I got a call and they were like, can you read this? And I was like, in a heartbeat. And I had it read in an hour and I was like, I love it. And a week later I was in Canada filming. So it was very quick. But it is, you know, Colm Tóibín, based on a Colm Tóibín short story. It is the most beautiful film. You know, Eben and I play a married couple. I play a woman who's really struggling in her life, and I have these two fantastic sons. Fred Heshinger, who, if you don't know Fred Heshinger, like, he's going to steal your heart. He is just the most incredible young man. And Kit Connor, who's also like the most gorgeous, darling person. And it's just, I'm so excited to see it. Isn't
it lovely to feel that about your work?
Yeah, well, you know, I feel like when you're in things like that, I feel like when I get to work with real, you know, auteurs, that you're, I don't know, it's something different. Like, if you're in some other stuff, sometimes you're a bit like, oh, I don't know if what I did and I don't really want to see, because you get embarrassed. But I feel like when you're facilitating someone who is as uniquely singular in their work, then, you know, you're just part of this beautiful puzzle, and it sort of takes the pressure off, if that makes sense. But yeah,
can't wait for that one. Soundtracks, and we haven't really talked about music, but do you have a soundtrack or a piece of music from a film or TV show that's one of your favorites?
Oh gosh, oh, I do, but I can't. I can't think of it right now. Well, I know I use music all the time.
Do you, for character?
But yeah, I mean, less so now, but especially when I first started, I didn't have the experience to sort of be able to tap into things, and so music was my like key to it. I'm talking like this, and my other half of the brain's trying to think of the song that I'm trying to think of.
Or even just the film, and then we can find it, or the TV show. Don't worry, it's fine.
Yeah, and it's like I can see them.
Fine.
Sorry,
it's all right. We'll pick something for you. Ave Maria, maybe. It's so exciting to kind of, for us as fans, to you know that there's so much to come. But also, I really hope that the directing is something you're going to pursue in between all these great roles that you're taking on as well. Because I mean, great job in this, and you can just see the passion that's in you to tell stories that way as well.
Yeah, I really, it's definitely where I want to sort of focus on as well. It's, you know, it's hard putting things together, but I guess that's also part of the fun of it, right? You know.
Yeah. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Don't forget, you'll get the next episode on Saturday night as well on MGM Plus. Thank you so much. The wonderful Caitriona Balfe, everybody.